Hey guys, welcome back. Ricky here. Alright, today back with another sharpening video. You guys will be sick of my sharpening videos by the end of this whole series. But yes, today I'm doing another video on the Shapton Glass 120 grit on a knife that is only heat treated to a 57. This is the Zwilling Pro utility knife. Very nice knife here. I actually have been using these knives for a few months now. They're on demo to me. So I'm going to sharpen this knife. It's actually quite dull. I've actually been using it for a while, so you can see my knife is actually not cutting me at all. So this knife has been cutting bone, chicken, steak, you name it. And yeah, it literally is just, it is quite dull. It's not cutting anything. Yes. However, just keep in mind, this stone here is not meant to sharpen your knife, okay? It's used to kind of prep your knife for sharpening. So this is going to be, used for chipping, fixing chips and cracks and whatever else imperfections you guys have on your blade. So this is really just a prepping stone, or I shouldn't call it a prepping stone. It's a core stone. So you prep this, you prep your knives with this stone to go to a medium grit stone. Okay, so my main goal, objective today is not to see if this knife will become razor sharp. Yeah, it really is to see how many passes it takes to achieve a burr on both sides, and then to see what the load up situation is. How much will this stone load up on a 57 Rockwell, with a knife that is rated to a 57. Okay, and obviously, in addition to that, is to see how the knife feels on the stone, because you guys know that different steel types will feel differently on different types of stones. Okay, so again, this is really just a researching kind of experimental type of sharpening, and a lot of folks ask me, what stones are best for certain knife types, and I really don't know, and that's really the main goal of this whole series, is to kind of pair up or attempt to pair up different knife types with different stone types. Alright, so this stone is perfectly clean and perfectly flat. I actually flattened it from a couple of sessions ago, and it's clean because I clean my stones after every sharpening, and that's just a habit that I have. Some people like to clean the stones right before they sharpen, or they like to flatten the stones right before they sharpen. I flatten my stones once in a great while, once in a blue moon, once every few months, if that. The way I sharpen my knives, I make sure that I touch all the areas of these stones, and that really allows me to keep my stones as flat as possible for as long as possible. Okay, so again, this is a really simple demo, really to show you guys how this knife will react on this stone, and then I'll give you guys my remarks as I'm sharpening, and then at the end, after I've sharpened all my knives that I wanted on this stone, I'll do a conclusion video per stone, and then I'll do a conclusion video for the stones within the same grit. So a lot of stones, a lot of videos to watch. If you guys don't want to miss them, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. And so again, I'll walk you guys through the sharpening process. And before I do that, let me just talk about what I have here. This is my plate, my Atoma 400 and 1200 custom plate that I had made for me by my buddy Eugen. You guys can make your own. You simply buy a Atoma plate, either whatever grit you want, and then buy a replacement blade, slap it into the other side. That works really great for me, because then I have two plates on one, and I don't need to flatten the stone because it's already flattened from a previous session. This is my sharpening station, which stays here, and so things kind of get left here for days on end. These are my rust erasers. This is a stainless steel knife, so I don't need to use that, but they're always nice to have around the house. I always keep a couple of them just laying around the shop, and I always have things that may need to get touched up, and so these are great for that. My Nagaras are always sitting here. These are the Suhiro Nagaras. I also have the 3000 and the 5000. They're really nice. I enjoy these a lot. Of all the Nagaras I've used, these are possibly the best Nagaras, bang for buck and for performance. Okay, so I keep these around. They're always just kind of sitting around the shop as well. And my trusty brick I used to dull my knives with. I don't need to do it today because this knife is actually quite dull, as you guys can see. Very, very dull. So yeah, let's just get this thing started, and I'll walk you guys through the whole process. This is a really nice knife. It's got a really gentle curve, so I don't need to do any compensating for it. I can get most of the edge just by keeping the knife relatively flat and keeping a consistent angle. And so, but yeah, again, this is not a sharpening tutorial, but though I will walk you guys through it just so you guys know exactly what I'm doing. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so so because this knife is really short relative to my chef's knife, I don't need to do a whole lot because the stone actually takes up, I mean, it for every pass, it's taking up at least 3/4 or at least half of the cutting edge is actually being sharpened at the same time. So these passes may look really short to you. That's okay, but because I'm actually capturing so much of the actual edge, I don't have to worry about staying on the stone for too long with every pass. Now, the only thing that I need to point out is the very tip of this knife is actually quite curved, or it's got a nice little belly there. So what I do is when I'm sharpening the edge, I actually allow my wrist to bend and flex just a little bit, and that actually allows the curved to be sharpened properly. Okay, and so when I'm doing that, I will move the edge tip around to the different areas of the stone to make sure that I get all of it, and this helps me keeps my stone relatively flat, for as flat as possible. And this is a fairly flat area. It's not 100% flat, but it's fairly straight, so I don't need to flex my wrist at all. I don't need to bend my wrist at all. So I'll let the stone and knife do the work at this point. All right. So because this is a much softer steel than than many of my other knives, you can see two things that, well, you can't see this, but one, I actually have developed a burr after just 2 passes, and I can go one more just to make it good. And you guys can see the load up is actually loading up faster than the other knives. I actually just sharpened this stone using the Tosa, as well as my Shun Kanzo, and you can see that they should load up a lot slower. So, not a big problem. It's actually not inhibiting the stone from sharpening at all. I'm not worried about this very slight load up, so I'll just keep going and see how many passes it takes to develop a burr on both sides and see how the stone looks afterwards. Okay, I believe that was 3 passes. And yeah, I mean, this is a very soft steel, and it's really showing on this stone. Okay, so I'm actually comfortable enough to move forward. I'll actually move to the other side. So we'll do that. Now you hear the grinding. Actually, so the way the ferrules or the ferrule, yeah. So this has got a really interesting curve, which I just didn't realize until now. It's actually sticking beyond the point of most of my knives. That's why I actually am grinding against it. And even when it's perpendicular, it sticks way beyond the bottom edge of the bottom tip. So that's why this knife here would be a little bit tricky to sharpen. So what you want to do is instead of stopping perpendicular, you want to actually go beyond the perpendicular to sharpen the very bottom edge of this knife here. Or if you want to just focus the knife in this bottom edge, you can go to the bottom of the stone and just simply do this. This doesn't look professional, but it actually works really, really well when you're trying to sharpen just one tip of the knife here. Because this way you actually avoid the stone grinding against the ferrule itself. Okay, so you don't have to do it. You don't have to take my advice for it. But this is something that I have just learned. These little tricks that you learn from sharpening so many different knives. Okay, so now you want to go broad strokes for the center of the knife. And take your time. Okay, again, I'm being a little bit more careful because I don't want to scratch the knife up, even though it won't hurt the knife at all. I just don't like damaging my knives. Okay. Okay, so that's, I believe that was that 2 or 3 passes? Again, I always tell people this. I mess up my counts when I'm actually doing videos because I'm talking at the same time and not focused on actual all the sharpening by itself. So if I count wrong, just forgive me. I don't do it on purpose. It's pretty hard to talk and sharpen at the same time and keep count. Alright, so yeah, I mean, that was, I believe that was either 3 or 4 passes on each side, or 3 passes or 4, yeah, I believe it's 4 passes, let's just say 4. And yeah, it's got a really nice healthy burr. Actually, it's actually quite fine. When I say healthy, meaning it's actually a good working burr, meaning there's a burr, consistent burr from the top edge to the bottom edge. I kind of developed my own sharpening terms for my videos, so forgive me if I don't speak sharpening language. Okay, so this knife is actually ready to go. Again, it's not razor sharp. Again, the point of this stone here is to prep you for the next stone. Okay, so if I was sharpening this knife in progression, I will be comfortable moving on to my 800 or 1000 grit stone at this point. And so this stone works really well for this this blade type. Surprisingly, I thought that this stone might be too hard for this blade type, but actually it's not. Very good stone. And you guys can see here, if you guys compare this to some of my other videos, earlier videos, this stone has loaded up a lot more than the Tosa blade and the Shun VG Max blade. I'm sorry, the AUS10A blade on the Konzo steel. So all in all, this steel does work fairly well with this stone, but I'll have a kind of a more entire video where I explain everything in detail. So this stone is just a little dirty. I actually like to clean my stones before I move on to the next knife. So what I do is I'm just going to dry this knife off real quickly here. These knives are actually pretty good value for your money. I actually enjoy them a lot. They don't have the best or most comfortable handles, but they are really easy to use. And I mean, day-to-day uses, I actually just have a ceramic steel that I sharpen these with. The only reason why I'm doing using these stones is because of these videos. And so I just want to make sure that people who want to buy Western knives, you guys can buy sharpening stones. Okay, a lot of folks will say if you have a Western knife, use a steel. That's not true. I mean, you can, absolutely you can. But for those who enjoy hand sharpening, I do. So I'm just showing you that you can still enjoy the benefits of hand sharpening with a Western steel, Western knife. So let's put this guy down. So I'm just gonna clean this stone up and show you guys exactly what I do. And this stone is actually quite old. I've actually been using it for quite some time, but because of how thick the stone is, it lasts for quite a long time. And all I do is run the stone about 10 to a dozen times up and down the stone. And then that takes off all of the little gritty steel embedded in the stone itself. You guys will see now. See, now the stone is completely clean. And that's the easiest way to maintain your stone. A lot of folks will tell you that you need to flatten your stone before and after every use. I personally don't believe in that, but that's just my opinion. Everyone has a right to their opinion. Alright guys, so this is just a quick recap. This is the Shapton Glass 120 with these Welling Pro knife, utility knife, and they seem to work really well together. Again, I'll have more sharpening videos coming up very quickly, so thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this view, and if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. But let me know in the comments in terms of this angle, this view. Do you guys like seeing this view, or do you guys prefer seeing it from a different angle where you're seeing as if you're sitting in front of me and me sharpening, or do you actually enjoy seeing it, the video as if you are me sharpening it? So I just want to know your comments. Will help me put together better videos in the future. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.